Who are the real terrorists in America? We've seen the sad news, thanks to one whistleblower inside the FBI, that the Department of Justice and the Counterterrorism Division of the FBI is targeting parents across the nation with counterterrorism tools. Well, that is political persecution. It's wrong. But there are domestic terrorists in America, and they are called Antifa. One man knows about this organization more than anybody else, and we are delighted to have him with us today on the Gawker Reality Check. He is the editor-at-large of The Post-Millennial and the author of an incredible work, everybody has to read it, Unmasked, Inside Antifa's Radical Plan to Destroy America. Welcome, Andy, to the Gawker Reality Check.
Thank you, Dr. Gawker.
So, Andy, can I just start with a very strange thing as I was prepping for today's show? I wanted to find images, I wanted to find a clip of the attacks that you have suffered at the hands of Antifa. And when I went onto the search engines, I found the top results about Andy Ngo and Antifa attack had the same phrase in them. And the phrase was, Andy Ngo, who says he's been attacked by Antifa. Now the footage is out there. You are covered, you've been attacked, you're bleeding, you end up in hospital with a brain hemorrhage. As a journalist who's telling the truth about this organization, would you just respond to this fact that on the world's search engines, they're saying you said you were attacked, not that you were attacked?
Yeah, it's quite telling, isn't it? I mean, these same publications have no compunction when it comes to describing riots as peaceful protests or mostly peaceful, or instances of alleged police brutality. They'll frame it as instances of police racism, often without evidence.
No, it's absolutely remarkable. It just demonstrates why we need such things as the post-millennial, because there is real journalism, as is done by you, and then there are propaganda arms of political parties, which is the mainstream media. Let's talk about your book. You have chronicled what Antifa is doing in America. Talk to us about the origins. This isn't a brand new organization. This has history in the 1930s. They say that they were anti-fascists. But what's the truth about Antifa, and what is their strategic objective, Andy?
Yeah, so I think all Americans should be really disturbed that the federal government is not applying a consistent definition of what domestic terror is. In fact, what you see from some of these investigative and federal law enforcement arms is that they are politicizing that term and using it to essentially describe anybody who is critical of left-wing orthodoxy as a domestic terrorist. You brought up the example of branding parents who protest on behalf of their children as those are labeled domestic terrorists, and of course anybody who supported Donald Trump or the previous administration. All in the meanwhile, you have militants who are involved with far-left extremism and Antifa and numerous other groups who actually embrace the label of domestic terrorism and carry out acts of terrorism such as shootings, arson attacks, maimings, attack on federal courthouses, police stations, and the citizenry across the United States. So as I document in my book, Antifa is organized into cells across the United States as well as other countries in the West. And they have an older origin story. They take their inspiration from the first Antifa, which was a violent paramilitary of the German Communist Party just before the Second World War. So from its foundational history to subsequent manifestations as we see today, they have always been violent with a violent revolutionary agenda, and they state it clearly. So I would point law enforcement officials to those who proudly embrace that label of being a terrorist and start investigating them properly.
Yeah, look, you summed it up perfectly, Andy. Way back when, 90 years ago, this was a violent, militant wing of the Communist Party in Europe, and that's exactly what they are today in America. I want everybody to read this man's book. It is Unmasked and Inside Antifa's Radical Plan to Destroy America, and you can find out more from this brave, courageous reporter at his local site. That's no.locals.com. That's NGO.locals.com. God bless you, Andy, for doing what you do, because really, you know, you're a one-man truth-telling organization that is telling the world what they need to know about this violent threat to America. So God bless you. Let's go from the threat of Antifa across the nation to racism itself. Who are the real racists in America? We'll talk to an Army veteran, a military intelligence professional, a congressman who may be the next governor of New York. Stay with us here on the Gawker Reality Check.